Since 1950, Sebring International Raceway has been testing sports car drivers from around the world, including those fortunate enough to be racing Ferraris. It tests their abilities to tame its vicious bumps and myriad challenges, and perhaps no better car exists to pass those tests than the glorious Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. And those who pilot these stunning machines relish each moment. Welcome to the penultimate round of the 2020 Ferrari Challenge North America Championship. Welcome to the final races of the season on North American soil. And welcome to Sebring, and a very wet Sebring at that. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Katie Osborne, who will be covering all the action down on the grid and might even make an appearance in the booth. She's been doing double duty for us here. And it is time for us for our first race of the doubleheader event here for our Trofeo Pirelli AM, and Coppa Shell competitors. 3 different driver categories racing in this same race. And as you can see, it is wet. We just had the race for the Coppa Shell AM, and it ended up finishing under caution, but we're hoping to get this one underway. Let's take a look at the calendar, and it has been spectacular in this very bizarre year. Ferrari Challenge has done an amazing job. Just look at that lineup of venues that they were still able to put together. We're at Sebring now, and the Finale Mondiale unfolding at Misano World Circuit in Italy in early November. So just an incredible array of wonderful venues. One of the reasons that this championship is so popular with the drivers. And we're happy to be here at Sebring. Of course, a legendary venue in its own right, for sure. The spiritual home of North American sports car racing, South Central Florida. And we're experiencing the kind of weather you would expect here in this part of the state at this time of the year. Any time of the year, really. It was beautiful this morning, had little bits of rain here and there, and then it just came down right as that race got going a bit earlier. Now, sunny again out there. As you can see, 3.74 miles in length, 17 turns, really long, fast straights, really challenging technical questions, sections, I should say, and the one questionable part is bumps. It is extremely bumpy and has been since the off. Of course, it served as a World War II bomber training base back in the day. Hendricks Field converted into the racetrack. Temperature now has dropped just a little bit with this rain. Still, though, in the upper 80s, and the real feel is in the upper 90s at this stage with some pretty good humidity. A lot of it now has dehumidified right onto the track surface. And part of the thing when you have a track with bumps is the valleys of those bumps tend to hold a little bit of water. So that's one of the things that they're dealing with. A bit earlier in the weekend, the points leader in our Coppa Shell AM category was kind enough to give us a fabulous onboard look of a lap around this legendary circuit. And here it is.
Hi, my name's Justin Wetherill, and welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Let's go for a hot lap in the Ferrari Central Florida 199 488 Challenge Evo car. Here we are at Sebring International Raceway in Sebring, Florida, kicking off a hot lap. You want to carry that full throttle just past the bridge here into turn 1 and start to apply the brakes and turn the car in. The goal here is to get it tight into the corner so that your car is just under that sign to the left. Opening it up, back again, pretty hairy through there when you're really on it. Down here into turn 3, down into 3rd gear, through turn 4, trying to make that as straight as possible. Right around turn 5, trying to get to throttle as early as possible, as you will carry all that speed all the way down around Big Bend in turn 6 and onto the hairpin coming up here in turn 7. A really great opportunity to pass during the race. So you're braking at the 400 marker, opening up your hands to get the steering wheel open so you can apply throttle as quickly as possible. Full throttle here through 8, 9, and coming up to 10 where there will be hard braking and a right-hand turn. Down here to 3rd gear, trying to end up in the middle of the road, heading through Collier Corner in turns 10 and 11, trying to keep that as flat out as possible depending on kind of the tire wear during the race. Down at the tower turn here in turn 13, down to 3rd gear, trying to hit that apex, and again, open up your hands to get the throttle as quickly as possible. Bishop Bend, one of the more exciting parts of the track, 2 left-handers back to back. You're going to do those turns flat out again and try to line the car up as far to the left as possible coming into turn 15, which is a fast right-hander. You're going to try to ride that curb, straighten it out as much as possible, and get back to power. Heading into turn 16, you're going to open that up just a little bit by inching off what looks to be the course so that you can get to power as quickly as possible and carry that power all the way down that back straight, reaching speeds in excess of 165 miles an hour. Want to start it out just to the left of that blue dot where the road isn't as bumpy, and open up your hands as quickly as possible so that you can apply full throttle down this long front straight. And that was a lap here at Sebring International Raceway.
And what a lap it is. This place is legendary. And as you can see, it does tend to hold a little bit of water. But the nice thing is that it does dry quickly too. And we've seen that already today as we had a little bit of moisture in one of the qualifying sessions. And by the time the next group went out some 15 minutes later, it was virtually dry. So that's what we're going to hang our hat on here. But everybody, I'm sure, is going to be out on wet weather tires. And the interesting dynamic is if it doesn't rain, and you can see these wet weather tires, they funnel that air through the grooves, cutting the tires. They funnel a huge amount of water up and into the air. And if it dissipates and they start to find a really dry line, these tires, to be effective, have to be very soft in their compounding so that they still generate heat, because it's the heat in the rubber that is what generates grip with a racetrack, especially one that's been cooled by rain. And so if you're out on wet weather tires on a drying track, it can really take a toll on the tires. So there's lots to be thinking about here. But the thing is, there's no way you could be out on slicks right now. You can just look at the amount of water that they're displacing on this rundown Ullman Straight, and that gives you a real clue here. And they're out on their their formation laps, really. And I think smart move here. They're just letting them run for a little bit to try and get some of this water moved off of this track. It's going to be interesting. And in looking outside, and I've got a limited viewpoint, but it sure looks like we've got on some nice weather that's moving in. So, but we're getting a report now that in an area obviously where I can't view anything, we've got some lightning being reported. And per the rules of any series and championship, you can see they're bringing the cars in for corner workers, camera people, spotters, and everybody. Lightning, of course, is a huge concern. And so things are now going into a hold pattern. So as the cars make their way into pit lane, we're going to step away for just a bit here as well. And as soon as everything clears up, or as we get updates, until then, we are going to just pause. Flag flies, we are racing, and Musial Jr. leaps to the lead, decides to go for it, down to the inside. Aiken senses him. Beautiful pass by Michael Watt. Oh, and a big move there by Bayervalt as he jumps up the inside of Whittle. Lisa Clark sneaks through as well. What a story for Musial. From his first pole, Dave Musial 2.0 comes through with a beautiful win. And the green flag flies as they head down into the Andretti hairpin. Cooper protects way to the inside. Green flag. in Coppa Shell. Now a late move down to the inside by points leader Kevin Milstein. Everybody senses him coming. He floats wide. Booth leads. Down through Rainey one last time. Musial drops the tire on the inside, drops his lefts on the exit. Brent Holden, Ferrari of Newport Beach, wins overall. And then it'll be Chawest winning and Booth getting his first win of the year. The field to the green flag, and there it goes, but it looks like Justin Wetherill may have timed it a little bit. I think he started to go early, then checked up, but a late move here by Michael Watt.
Man, that's a great move to the inside.
Watch Watt. Remember, he doesn't telegraph, he makes decisive moves. Oh, and he got trapped that time. Here he comes, Watt filling his mirrors with Clemson purple and orange. Watt thinking about it, dives to the inside once again. Now, Musial, can he square up, get on the throttle underneath? Wasn't enough, and Watt once again with an absolutely decisive pass. Wow.
That was heads up. Man, oh man.
In the second race of round 5 of the championship, we are green. Cooper McNeil leads the field down into turn 1, up on his shoulder, young Jordan Workman, 21 years of age. Holden has been able to sneak through on McGrew. Look at this move as McCarthy has not only gone by on Rubo, he was attacking on Ross Chawest right there as well. And he adds a remarkable 9th win in 10 starts and a 10th straight fast lap.
If you apply Ferrari's GT3 race car know-how to a street car, you get the 488 Pista. And that's not a typo for the word pasta. Pista means circuit. This is a road car for the track, and I tell you what, it is fantastic. Even more power than the Porsche, 700 horsepower, and it just has immense performance on a track. Mid-engine, so I've got a lovely front end, it's direct. And the DNA connection to the GT3 car is even stronger in this one. Because when Ferrari made the Pista, they took the engine basically from their Challenge race car, which is the basis of the GT3 car. So you can say, my car's got a racing engine in it. But what's so clever about the Ferrari is the systems. The traction control and the ABS, the way all of that works on the racing car is being translated into a set of systems, a suite of systems to make the Pista driver feel like a superhero. You can come out of a corner, bury it, and it will just look after itself. It'll manage the slip angles. It makes you into a drifting hero. Some people think the fact that it's turbocharged robs it of some personality. I don't. Listen to that. And it's so potent. Racing, improving the breed. You couldn't make a car like this unless you were involved in a race program. I really don't think you could. And the thrust, I'm coming out of there in third gear, fourth, fifth, sixth. These track cars don't need to be any faster. We need some drivers that can keep up with how good they are. And yet it's got air conditioning, it's got a radio. You could drive 1,000 miles in this and it wouldn't be a problem. And yet on the circuit, it marmalizes every corner and every straight. And the really weird thing, it's got about 150 horsepower more than the racing car, because that's restricted because of regulations. This feels miles faster in a straight line. Go figure. You get out of your racing Ferrari, get into your street car, and it feels faster. Win-win.
Of course, for it to be a win-win, you need to have both a Ferrari street car and a Ferrari race car, which actually we have. And not just any Ferrari race car, an unliveried, essentially naked one. Just stunning.
This is the Ferrari 488 GT3 car, one of the very best GT3 cars on the grid. What's it like on a circuit? 50 years of IMSA proving how good GT cars can be. Oh, all of you GT3 racers, you're lucky. Well, I'm one of them, I'm lucky. I love these things. GT3 has become a phenomenal success story because the cars are so exciting. Now I race an Aston Martin, so I have to look at the back of these too often, these Ferraris. What's it like? Okay, immediately I've got a fantastic front end on the car. Love the directness of it. The engine doesn't feel that powerful compared to a street car. About 550 horsepower in this spec, but the aerodynamics are fantastic. The torque is superb, it punches out of corners. Traction is superb. Aerodynamic grip there. Look at all those wings and diffusers. And it's just so competent. Systems working so well. Designed for amateurs and professionals alike. Just so agile. Oh, I could do this all day long. And how good does it look in plain red with no stickers on it? What a machine. Brakes are fantastic. These cars remind you that however good a street car is, it can't match a real racing car on slick tyres. Oh, yes, please. I could do this all day.
Welcome back, everybody. After having some serious weather delays here, we are set to go once again at Sebring International Raceway for the beginning here of this Trofeo Pirelli Am, and the Coppa Shell race that was paused briefly due to some weather concerns and a little bit of lightning. However, we are ready to get back to it again here at the legendary Sebring International Raceway. And there is a look at the starting grid. The cars had been released out on their formation laps and then brought back in, even though the sun is making an appearance after what had been some serious rain during our previous race. It looked like things were looking pretty good, but there's a certain area around the track in terms of distance, and if lightning hits within that area, and things have to be halted. That happened, but it has since apparently cleared, and we are looking forward to getting ready to go racing once again here at Sebring International Raceway. The cars are ready, having qualified earlier today. The drivers certainly are anxious and ready to get after it. And as you can see, the grid is starting to clear, so we anticipate getting this one going. I've got to believe everybody's going to be starting on wet weather tires. The track is still pretty damp, but if there's no rain and this race goes the full 30 minutes as we would anticipate, there's every likelihood that near the end of this race, people are going to have to be taking very good care of these very soft rain tires. And when you get a dry track and those soft rain tires, they can get chewed up in a hurry. So everybody's going to have to be mindful of that. You might even see cars ducking and juking around, trying to find wet spots on the track to run through just to cool those tires just for an instant. And we are now underway for the formation lap. There is the possibility we could end up doing 2 formation laps and pace laps, if you will, just to give these drivers now an opportunity to see this track once again for a couple of laps before they get the green flag and start to go in anger at this legendary facility. So look at the number 15 of Jason Mccarthy for Wide World Ferrari as he makes his way out on the track here. Again, 3 different categories of drivers. Everybody runs the same car, the remarkable 488 Challenge Evo. But it's the driver rating, if you will, that determines what class you run in. And it really comes down to a combination of experience and speed. And depending upon where you fall in a certain category, that's how you're placed in your class. Top class is Trofeo Pirelli for the most experienced and quickest drivers, Trofeo Pirelli Am for the drivers that are in that category, but not quite as quick. So take a look at the starting lineup. Cooper McNeil, another pole for Westlake Ferrari, and Jordan Workman, Ferrari of Central Florida. Row 2 are returning Aman Kermani, Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale, and Enzo Podolio, Ferrari of Central Florida. Row 3, Roshi West, Boardwalk Ferrari, and pole sitter for the Trofeo Pirelli Am, Brent Holden. Row number 4, David Musial, Ferrari Lake Forest, and Jean-Claude Sada, Boardwalk Ferrari. Row number 5, Claude Centeretti, Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale, and Jason McCarthy, Worldwide Ferrari. Row 6, start your Coppa Shell class. Pole sitter Jim Booth for Ferrari of Atlanta, Jay Schreibman, Collie Ferrari of Detroit, Brad Horseman, Foreign Cars Italia, and Kevin Milstein, Ferrari of San Diego, make up row 7. Row 8, Ian Campbell, Ferrari of New England, and Paul Keebler, another Collie Ferrari of Detroit competitor, as they make their way out and onto the track here. And as you can see, sun really is now out and beating down on this track surface. But you can see there is still plenty of moisture down on this track. I said Cooper McNeil, another pole. This is the 11th race. All of the events are double headers. This is round 6, and the first of the races here. So this will be the 11th race in the championship. Cooper just scored his 11th pole. He's had 10 fast laps coming in and 9 race wins. So he is just, it's been an absolutely stunning season. As a matter of fact, if he gets the fast lap in this race, he will clinch the championship. Now, of course, we don't know. He'll have the fast lap till the very last lap. But with the number of people in the class, he'll also earn other points. He comes in here with a 58-point margin. He grew that to 59. And when you think that this race and 3 others remain in the championship, 15 points to win, that's 60 points. And then you get a win, or a point for pole and a point for fast lap. So that is 2, 4, 6, 8 more points. So he can very well clinch this here. All he has to do is leave here today with a margin that would exceed essentially 51 points. So it's very likely he will end up doing that. So here we go, as looking to see lights remain on behind the official safety vehicle, the stunning F8 Tributo. It's an incredible car. It's the next evolution of the 488 GT road car. Just a stunning machine. And it is the official vehicle, and Cooper is, and you know, I used to think that he'd run up alongside of it just to be able, because it would give him a little bit more of an ability to then get on the brakes really hard and get some heat up through the rotors, up through the wheels and into the tires, and get the brakes hot and all that. I don't think that's it anymore. I think he just wants to drive up alongside it so we can look at it and oogle that F8 Tributo. It's that beautiful a car. So that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. But we're getting ready to go. And as we are starting the second lap, and obviously there's going to be a couple of camera spots. We have some moisture that has worked its way inside some of the camera lenses. When you, believe me, folks, if you didn't see that first race, the amount of rain that came down was just stunning. And I don't think any equipment would have been able to survive that. Welcoming Katie up into the booth. She joined me for that first race as well. And this is going to be an interesting one because clearly we've got lots of sun out there right now. The track's still way too wet for slicks, but I don't know how long it's going to stay in a position where it's not going to start taking a toll on these wet tires.
Yeah, and I did talk to a couple of the teams while I was down on the grid, and they're on their wet tires, they're on the slick. So it will be interesting. In talking to Cooper McNeil after qualifying, he also said that tire management is going to be key here. So now you're mixing in the rain, you're mixing in the sun. I came over to the booth and I'm sweating because it's hot out there again, so that you have that humidity. But he said the tire longevity. He said, you know, if he pushes it for the first 25 minutes and then there's a yellow, you know, that could be a huge problem. So just finding that balance, even for a guy like him who is so, you know, has so many accolades and so many wins here in the Ferrari Challenge, that's something he considers.
Well, and you bring up a very good point. If you go out hard in a race and build a big lead, and you really take a toll on your tires in doing that, if it stays green, you're the hero. It looks great. You drive off into the distance. You give back a little bit late in the race. It looks good. But if there's a late caution and people behind you have a lot better tires left on their car, you've got nothing to fight with at the end. And so that's all part of the strategic dance that you have to do. You're working with your engineers on top of the box in the pits that are giving you input, but you also have to have your own mindset and understanding and feel really of what's going on. And that's you know, part of the game here. We just saw the number 144 of Jim Booth, easy to spot with the golden arches on the car. We thank him for giving us some easy visuals. And they lay back. That's the Coppa Schultz, an entirely different category, but just due to the numbers game, they're running in this group, so they start a little bit farther back in the order. But here comes the rest of the field. And I'm going to be really intrigued, that orange car of Enzo Podolio. He is a very, very quick and globally recognized, really fast amateur-level driver. And we're going to see what happens here. He didn't qualify as well. He had some really good practice laps, but he didn't qualify as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch this go.
After qualifying, he said he was a bit loose, so he had that one final run in qualifying and didn't quite get that feel down. But as you're talking about, he's one of those guys who's just passion-driven within the sport and is a true car guy. All
right, well, here we go. Time to go racing. Enzo, and he moves maybe, or perhaps the green flag came out. It's certainly out now, and we are racing. And here we go, down into this look at the spray. Anybody back in the pack just a little bit, the visibility is going to be a struggle. Here we go, turn one. Cooper being, as you would suspect, a little bit circumspect through that first turn. You don't want to get up on the exit curbs. Normally you'd use the curbs around here a lot, but now a lot of these curbs are just holding water. And so you don't want to get up on those curbs for a little bit here. And he's just going to sort of tiptoe his way around. Jordan Workman right there behind him. But look at Podolio. He's already gone around Kermani and picked up a spot, I think, in the background here. Now he's dropped back just a little bit. As a matter of fact, now he's got Ross West has just slipped through on him. So Enzo maybe had made that move and then had the car step out on him for just a second. You can see how he squares up the exits of the corners here to line himself up. Now he's going to try the outside move around Ross West. And that's some of the experience you get, you know, the level of driving he's done around the world. You understand where fairly quickly to look at a racetrack and go, okay, there's going to be more grip out there. Get off of the line and go over and find the grip. Sometimes the part of the track in the dry, Katie, that you don't want to be near when it's dry is exactly where you want to be where it's wet, because that's where the aggregate's really rough and you get some grip.
And that's why it's so important to have that experience. We see Jim Booth here coming around. He's a guy who's had a little bit of experience here. And actually, he told me earlier today that, frankly, he hopes it rains because he is much better in the rain. He has had 3 DNFs already this season. He said that really stings, but he is on pole here today. He feels comfortable, confident in that car, and he's looking for a second win here.
And Brad Horseman, who qualified 3rd, has cleared Jay Schreibman, and Horseman has sort of glommed onto the back here of the red and yellow Ferrari. There is Horseman in that gray and black number 105 for Foreign Cars Italia, and the two of them have already created a little bit of a gap. You can see Schreibman in the background, chased by Milstein, and Milstein sits 2nd in the points. And it's interesting in this category, we talked about Cooper could probably will clinch here. Not just could, but probably will. But the other 2 classes here are the two closest categories in terms of points. Points lead between 1st and 2nd in the Trofeo Pirelli AM category is 5, and these guys, it's now 2 points because of the point that Booth got for pole over Milstein. It's that close.
Yeah, and in talking with Booth earlier today, asking him once he got on pole how important was that point for the championship. He said, of course, that is important, but it's in the racing, and you can see the mindset changes with these guys. They now are racing for something. They are racing for that championship, especially in the Coppa Shell and the Pirelli M class as well.
And like I said, we're down now this race and 3 more remain. That's it. And so the points now become a huge, huge factor if you're in a really serious points battle. Look at Mccarthy there in that yellow car sitting in 3rd. He really has come alive here. Mccarthy, like I said, he raced last year in a partial championship, and just great to have him back in this. This is his first start of 2020. But when he was here on those occasional weekends last year, he showed really good pace, and he's having a really good run now with Enzo Podolio and that bright orange machine that he runs, Ferrari of Central Florida. They're both easing up here on Jordan Workman as well, so McNeil easing away just a little bit here at the same time. And one thing that we've seen in the past with Cooper is sometimes he'll take off, and by the end of 2 laps or so, he's up the road by 5 seconds. His margin's not quite as big here as I think. Oh, and Podolio, that was a really brave move down underneath the Mccarthy. One of the reasons was you get off of that little bit better of a drying line, and you can see right as he got underneath Mccarthy, went through a puddle, you can see the splash of water, and somehow that car didn't skate and slide over into Amir, and Amir may have recognized him coming, has opened the wheel up a little bit, and now Enzo with another good run here. I thought he might be able to get by Jordan Workman, wasn't able to quite get it done. Well, you can see how Jordan really diamonds that last corner while Enzo just sort of keeps it tucked in a little bit closer through turn 17.
Jordan was telling me one of the things that he's working on as a driver, especially as he's new. I mean, he's only been racing, a year really, and has only been driving for a few. And he said maintaining position and not letting anyone in, really be driving on the defense. And I think that's an important thing to do.
It is. You have to learn how to defend, but sometimes you have to learn how to just outrace. And here comes Podolio scything up the inside. That's into turn 3, and this is that quick switchback area, and Cooper threw it now, and you can see he's going into what's called Big Bend, and it's just, you come out of turn 5 and you just start feeding it throttle all the way down to the hairpin. It's a long section of track. You carry a lot of speed, but already Cooper is offline and looking for moisture.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He actually showed me.
This could be ugly. That is Kermani, came from way, way back, and Enzo had enough speed into that turn. Sorry to jump on you there, but when he did that, and part of the problem is when you get so far over like that, Katie, the guy that you're passing, you're way outside of his ability to see you in the mirrors. And sometimes when you make a move, you want him to see you do it, so now he knows you're there, so he doesn't turn in. and you both wreck. When you're that far over, he has no clue you're there. He turns in, and if you're out down on the track where it's wet and you can't stop, that's where accidents can happen. And I think Enzo just had enough of a head of steam built up. He turned in, but it was a nice pass by Amir, certainly on Workman, and I think surprised Jordan big time.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It is interesting, though, Greg, how much goes into this. So now they're dealing with surface changes. They're dealing with cloud coverage. They're dealing with the wet, the dry, and just so much thought goes into being in the driver's seat here. And I think it's something that most people would say, yeah, they get into a Ferrari and they just go out and drive. No, there's so much thought, so much strategy.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always called this high-speed chess. You're out there, especially when you're running with people in different categories. Not everybody drives the same line, so the pieces are moving differently on the board that is the track. And you've got to sometimes be looking not just even 2 corners ahead, but a lap ahead sometimes on where am I going to catch this guy? Where can I set him up to pass him? How can I do this without slowing me down and letting the guy that's chasing me get an opportunity? And, we're watching this study right now between Booth and Horseman. And there are spots where Brad's a little bit quicker, and then Booth finds a little spot and just starts to open that margin up again.
Yeah, you wonder if this is what Brad is doing right now. He's watching Jim, just trying to figure out when he might make that mistake to make the move. And actually, the conversation that I had with Brad Horseman back at Laguna Seca was he wanted to be aggressive, but he wanted to be aggressive with finesse. And this is one of those tracks where finesse and focus really does pay off.
It really does. And one of the guys that we were talking about, Brent Holden, his smoothness. When it's wet like this, smooth is everything. If you're really abrupt and with the car, well then you're inducing the car to slide. And smooth, everything smooth throttle, smooth brakes, smooth hands pays huge dividends.
But what was interesting is it's so amazing that he can stay smooth, Brett Holden, knowing that, as he told me, Newport Beach, it doesn't rain that much there. So when so when he saw the rain on the forecast today, he got a little bit nervous before qualifying, but it was able to obviously pull together and stand on pole today.
Well, and I'll tell you, a guy who has driven some brilliant opening laps here is Jason McCarthy. He started behind at the back of that Trofeo Pirelli AM pack. He's up into the lead, and he's got a 2.5-second lead already, and is absolutely flying right now in that wide world Ferrari machine. And he's coming up now at some speed, closing on the back of Ross West. And here's where in that section of track where Horseman's a little bit quicker as we go back to Coppa. And look how close he is now. That margin is a car length, maybe 2. It's a fascinating study here. That's through turn 10. It's called Cunningham Corner. This is bending through Collier Curve. Just the names at this venue. Legendary sports car names, obviously. And now up into Tower Turn, where the old airport Hendricksfield Tower used to be. And now feeding it down the front, or the short chute, heading into Bishop Bend, one of my favorite parts of this track. 2 very quick left-handers in full dry conditions. You're just flat chat through there, but you can see the back of Booth's Ferrari just skating a little bit. So in these damp conditions, that changes the dynamic a lot. This is Le Mans curve. And it was the 24 Hours of Le Mans that inspired Alec Ullman. He said, we got to create a place where we can have that kind of racing here in North America. And came up with the idea as an aeronautical engineer to use the runways and taxiways of the airbase to create a track. Ooh, Booth right on the edge.
What a shot.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? And it really shows you how much these cars are moving in these damp conditions when you have to push it. And the reason Booth has to push it is a guy named Horseman.
Yeah, no doubt. And we go back to what we talked about before. This championship is, these guys are driving for the championship now. Although Booth said qualifying, it's not really on his mind. You got to know that that's what now in race mode, that's where they're moving. The points are so close.
Right. When you're in the car and focused, you're not necessarily thinking about it, but out of it, you sure are. Ooh, and look at this move by Horseman, but way too hot. Booth going to try and come back underneath. Horseman might let go. There's a touch. Horseman, I don't think, realized Booth was there and thought he had cleared him and was going to turn in, and Booth was there. And now Horseman hits that huge puddle, and that just stymies the momentum. And Booth almost collected him. He had to swing out and avoid him. And I'll tell you, when you saw that amount of water come off of that right front tire when Booth got up by that, or when Horseman got up by that curb, I mean, you've been driving a car on a road, I'm sure, when you hit a big puddle like that and the car just lurches and stops. Well, that's what Booth had to try and avoid there through the Fangio chicane. And now Horseman into the lead. And this is fascinating because Booth, with his pole, came in with a 2-point lead over Kevin Milstein, but Horseman was only 4 points back of Milstein. So that means first to third in that category is covered by 6 points. That's it. And now Horseman gets in front, and where Milstein is currently running, back in the 4th spot, that's a pretty big swing. It's 3 points, 15-12, first to second. So
we're taking a look here at Dave Musial. I talked to him right as he was putting his helmet on, and he said that he is very excited that it rained. He said he is one of the ones who went out during practice during the rain, he and his son 2.0, and he says he feels extremely prepared,
Yep.
and feels very confident running in the rain.
Well, and getting track time in the wet earlier in the weekend, that can pay huge dividends. And look at this. I talked about how Enzo Podolio is a really, really recognized AM category driver globally. And he has given Cooper McNeil everything that they can deal with right now. And they may have raced against each other as well in Grand Am and maybe some ALMS competition. As I said, Enzo, that was early in the 21st century, if you will. And he now hasn't been doing a ton of racing, but then this year he's done a couple of races in Ferrari Challenge Europe, did a few last year as well. But he's just really, really a stout driver. And I think in these conditions, he might be up to a battle with Cooper here. And he, as you said, he didn't get what he wanted out of qualifying, but he had some really quick laps in practice.
Well, if one guy knows this track well, it is Cooper. He's run here how many times in the 12 hours? He's won the 12 hours of Sebring in 2013, even wearing the Rolex, the 2013 Rolex anytime he comes to this track. But Enzo right now doing an incredible job at giving him a run for the money here.
Enzo's got laps here too. I mean, in that 2012 year when he won Le Mans in the P2 category, I'm pretty sure he ran Sebring with that same Star Works team. So he's got laps, looks to the inside here. This is a duel for the lead, not something Cooper's experienced since, matter of fact, last year right here when Benjamin Hites and he went at it. Ooh, Cooper hit that bump. The car really stepped out. Podolio may have got a little bit of a run down to the inside, but Cooper, look at that. He still was comfortable enough to open the wheel, take it right to the wall, and feed it throttle. He knew that was the only way he was keeping Enzo behind him. And that's that compartmentalization that I've talked about, where you got to just forget that's a wall and that's just sort of a track out point, and you get as close to it as you can, use up all the road. Look at Cooper. He's just right in the middle of the road now because he knows Enzo's going to be attacking. Cooper again, a little bit wide, flailing inside the cockpit on that steering wheel.
That's what I was about to say. You could see those hands. You can see the wheel moving.
Yeah, he is really fighting that car. Enzo running the same speed as he is right now, Katie. And you don't see that car moving around anywhere near as much.
Man, I wish I knew what was going on with Enzo's mind right now. Where is his mind at? What is he thinking? Is he waiting for him to make a mistake, which we know Cooper doesn't make a ton of mistakes here? Wow, what would...
Well, he's seeing Cooper's car moving a lot. He's seeing all the little corrections, and Cooper, sliding here and there. And Enzo right now, like I said, his car's planted. Mm-hmm. And so Enzo right now may be saying, I've just got a better car underneath me right now. So I need to just keep hounding Cooper and see if, one, I can get him into a mistake. And if I can't get him into a mistake, get him into that scenario we talked about earlier where he has to use up his tires too much. And they may have given Enzo a little bit different setup on his car that is just working in these conditions maybe a little bit better right now. And so Cooper right now is hanging on. We talked about watching those hands on the wheel. Look at him drift through Bishop Bend, and this is where Enzo made that big pass earlier. Cooper covered it, but you can see Cooper's car is sliding and rotating a lot, and Enzo's car is just stuck. And Enzo really getting to the throttle earlier there and did it more aggressively than Cooper did. So let's see if that gives him a little bit of a head of steam down into Sunset. He Looks to the inside. Cooper turns in. Now you brake. This is one of those situations, Katie, where it's easier sometimes to follow, obviously, because you can see what that guy's doing, and you go, well, I know I can do at least that. And so then it's, where do I try and do something? Look at Cooper staying left there. He's trying to make sure that Enzo cannot do anything. Now Enzo's going to do the outside move, but does he make it stick at the exit? Watch for them coming around. They're side by side. Enzo had to go the longer way around. Cooper's going to fight him tooth and nail up into the brake zone. Enzo's going to try and close the door, and does. He's through. New leader, Enzo Podolio. What a battle that was for 2 laps, these two. And now Cooper gets to see, is there anything I can do? Stay with him now and try and get him to make some sort of a mistake? Or, as we said, did Cooper just use up? And again, I'm not saying it's Cooper going out too early. You talked about he was very aware of that. It may just be the setup on the car with these drying conditions that Enzo's car is now dealing with it better than Cooper's.
You know, I think it's interesting that the windshield wiper is still going, and that is not distracting Enzo whatsoever. It doesn't seem like it would be. He's the only one that's out of the mix that right now is moving and shaking.
Well, I think part of it was he was following Cooper for a while, so every little bit of moisture off of Cooper's tires was hitting him, and at this stage, he may just be so in the zone that it's like, well, no point in me trying to flip that off. Things are going pretty well for me right now. And he has now set fast lap of this race, so, you know, Cooper, we talked about coming in here with 10 straight fast laps. Oh, Cooper's car is really dancing out there right now. And it's tough to tell. You know, one of the things you can do with the setup is you can soften it a little bit, which makes it work better in the wet. And it's tough to tell whether that's all that's been done. One of the cars is softer than the other one. And look at this, is Mccarthy now. He is just coming up through this pack. Looks like Ross West has gone through on Jordan Workman. Yep. And so now Mccarthy leading in the Trofeo Pirelli AM category. It's like he's coming up, and he may be moving into, he's top 5 overall right now, and he got through Le Mans curve way better than Workman did. Pops to the inside. It's going to be a little bit more. Oh, and he got in a little too hot there. You can see the car really bobbing and weaving. Now he's going to say, well, I'm going to carry some speed around the outside. You can see the bumps are a lot worse out there. So you've got to be ready for that. But look at him square up now underneath. Well, he was exploring every line option he had, wasn't he?
He absolutely was. You know, the number 15 there, Jason, is coming off of not the most standout Laguna Seca for him, and he wasn't really excited about how that all shook out. And so there's also, we talked earlier about redemption, and redemption being a key word here. Jason McCarthy might be feeling a little of that fire under him to perform well here today.
Well, Jason's fierce. That's the the one thing
Totally.
that I've learned about him is he is fierce, and sometimes he lets that red mist get the better of him. And when he reins it in and focuses it, he can put together drives like we're seeing here, which are just special. And he's really got a beauty going here as he is all over the back of Workman. Again, this is not for a class position. It's just an overall position here. But when you're running in a quote-unquote, and I say this advisedly, lesser category, when you can start passing some of the guys in the overall category, you feel pretty darn good about that. And right now, Brad Horseman has to feel really good about what he's done, because he's got a margin now. He's built up almost 4 seconds. There he is in the background of Jim Booth. Horseman is flying.
He is putting together great laps here, and actually he told me that he's only right now focusing on cleaning up those minor things in addition to that finesse and that aggression.
Look at that move. Yeah, he really did. And look at that move around the outside by Mccarthy on Workman. I think it all came up with, he got through Cunningham a little bit quicker and just floated around the outside in Collier. Another beautiful move. And what may be happening, I was talking about you can soften a car up, which makes it better in damp conditions, but as the track dries, that soft setting doesn't work as well. You get more roll and lean in the car. It puts even more load on those rain tires. And we may be seeing guys that started with a little bit more of a stiffer, drier setup starting to really find some speed right now.
Just those little differences will make
Oh,
a
yeah.
big difference in the grand scheme of it.
Coming up on 9 minutes to go. McCarthy, see him bobbing and weaving. He's looking for moisture. Just trying to find a spot where get a little bit of moisture on those tires.
Love that shot.
Yeah. And what I love is it shows the different lines these guys like to use.
Yeah.
And using that wide arc in. You can do that when you're not being hounded by somebody. If you're being hounded, that's just an invitation for them to just jump down the inside. But when you've got that bit of a margin, that's a really quick line to be able to use. As I said, oftentimes you get off of the normal racing line when it's damp. You find a little bit more grip out there. And McCarthy right now is coming up. This is Roche West, currently third in Trofeo Pirelli. And McCarthy is closing on him. He is just relentless.
You gotta think that gives a little bit of confidence, as you were talking about, not as much quote unquote that lesser class, but beating people who are not in your class, if you will, and what that must do for you as a driver.
Absolutely.
Something to prove for sure.
Oh, without doubt. And by the way, McCarthy right now, his last lap was a 2:19.7. That is the quickest lap in the class, a 2:19.7. No, check that, not fastest in the class. But quicker than Roche West up in front of him. Cooper last lap at 2:19.1, but listen to this number. Enzo Podolio just turned to 2:16.5.
What did he eat for breakfast?
That's 2.5 seconds quicker. I think that his car is just perfectly dialed for these conditions right now.
Yeah, they were. There was a lot of smart people behind that crew. And we talked about this earlier. The crew, the strategy that goes into this. It's a whole combination of things.
Yeah, no question. Here's now a look at Musial as he and Jean-Claude Sada having a good battle for the final podium spot in the AM category for Trofeo Pirelli. Those two guys covered by the proverbial blanket. They're not that far back at Claude Senoretti, who sits in the second spot just a little bit up the road here. Boy, and Sada really putting some pressure on Musial right now. And looking at their lap times, pretty identical. Sada has the fastest lap in the AM class right now at a 2:18 flat. Getting into our final 6.5 minutes. Oh boy, look at Musial working over the bumps. That car really dancing around. Sada's looks just a little bit more planted as they come through. Well, we bid farewell to Katie for a minute as she heads back down to the pits and ultimately to the podiums and victory circle. Thank you. Oh, who's that just ran wide? Not sure who that was. There's Workman. Sitting still fourth in Trofeo Pirelli category, but sixth at this stage. I think Senoretti has got, yeah, he has. So Senoretti, he's starting to run some pretty serious laps right now. A little bit quicker than McCarthy, so Senoretti may have saved his tires a little bit better. And there is Enzo Podolio, who is just down the road. What a drive he has put in here. I think that might be, is that Jay Schreibman, who's struggled here and has fallen down to fifth? It is in the Coppa Shell category, and Podolio coming up on him in a hurry. Schreibman drifts over to try and get some moisture on those tires, and Podolio just drives around the outside. Podolio, there's Cooper. That's the margin right now. Just amazing. Cooper's last lap, another 2:19, low 2:19. Podolio now up into the 17s. But he continues to build that margin up to 7 seconds at this stage. Roche West, you can see him swing out, trying to open that angle up as much as possible. Jason McCarthy, and it looks like McCarthy has gone around on West, so that's now third overall for Jason. Wow. What a race he has put together. His last lap, another 2:18 compared to the 2:20 of Choues. So yeah, Jason is just hooked up here today. There he is. Again, driving for Wide World Ferrari, with Choues behind him now, Boardwalk Ferrari. And those tires, you can hear those Pirelli P0 wets. They're really protesting now, and that's that soft compound on a fairly dry track. They are going to be putting up a bit of a howl at this stage. Centeretti right now is only 4 seconds back of McCarthy, but running out of time. He's putting in laps marginally quicker than McCarthy is. There he is. So it'll be interesting to see whether Centeretti is able to do much. There you see the margin officially, 3.2 seconds. Last time by start finish, but less than 3 minutes to go. Podolio is almost 10 seconds up the road right now. We're seeing a bit of a wet weather clinic by Podolio here. Wow. There's Kevin Milstein as he sits right now 4th in the Coppa Shell category. It's Horseman leading comfortably over Booth, who's got a real comfortable margin to Campbell, who sits 3rd, then Milstein, then Schreibman. And Keebler and Vogel completing the field, but down the order quite a bit at this stage. Uh-oh, problem there. That is the 122. I think that's Keebler. Just had a little bit of a moment, got away with it, kept it off of the barriers. Gathering it back up. That was through the exit of Collier up into 12. Watch it here. Just got out a little too wide. My guess is he was looking in his mirrors and saw Brent Holden right there and just stayed a little too focused on his mirrors and missed his turn-in point. You know, maybe trying to open the wheel up to let Brent come through, then got off of that dryish line into that little bit of damp, and then the car just won't turn. So we look here at Booth, points leader coming in. Oh, boy, did he just hit a pile of water right at that exit curb. Don't know if he meant to do that. I see something now has come loose underneath that left front. Could be some ducting from that big hit in the water. Just has to hang in there for another couple laps, maybe. Depends on where Podolio is right now. That's a great shot, that long lens, just showing you all the way down the front straight, the pit straight here. How deep they go, a little brush of the brakes, and then feed it into turn one. Turn one is in the dry is just spectacularly quick and diabolical with those bumps. There is Horseman building that lead. He is just absolutely putting on a superb drive right now. And there it is, white flag for Enzo Podolio. And he's expanded that margin now up to almost, well, let's see, as Cooper flashes through, what's it gonna be officially? 13 seconds. Podolio's just on rails right now. It's a huge curiosity right now as to what the setup, what they did with that car. There's McCarthy, third overall. Ooh, and a big lunge down to the inside here behind McCarthy. And that was Centeretti. He's closed it up a little bit more now. That margin between McCarthy and Centeretti. I think that was Centeretti just diving underneath Chouest, perhaps, because he knows he's got the pace here. The margin's down to 2 seconds at the start-finish line. It's less than that even. There's Sada sitting in third. He's been able to open up a margin over Musial. He got through and is able to open that. Boy, listen to that. That was Centeretti just driving so hard into the hairpin. He knows he's got a shot. Look at how fast he has made up that 2 second margin. Absolutely flying right now. This is for a class win and third overall here between McCarthy and Centeretti. Horseman has got big lead over Booth. So this right now, best battle on the track up through about halfway around the lap right now. I was going to say with Podolio, I almost wonder if maybe they didn't go to slicks, although when he started the race. But here he comes out of the final turn onto the front straight. Nope, those are definitely reins, but man, did he drive them beautifully. Enzo Podolio, what a run, winning in Trofeo Pirelli. And over your now, by my reckoning, this is not official, so please don't call me on it, but as Cooper MacNeil comes across the line, he should be now a 3-time champion. We'll confirm that for you, but we believe that to be true. Here comes McCarthy. How close is Centeretti? Right there. It's that close. Last turn, onto the front straight. Centeretti overran that corner just a little bit. He had to try something, but McCarthy just enough left. He will win Trofeo Pirelli Am with Claude Centeretti right behind him. Second in the class, fourth overall to McCarthy's overall podium. And then it should be Jean-Claude Sada will come through and finish third in Trofeo Pirelli Am. And there is a look at Brad Horseman. And you can see Booth behind him. Booth has clawed a little bit of that margin back here in the last few laps. But Horseman coming through Sunset Bend onto the front straight. And he too brings home an impressive win. What a drive again by Horseman. Started third relatively quickly, worked his way into second, then hounded Booth and made it happen. And yep, those are definitely wet tires. So look at that. He is saying, I love my Ferrari. And you bet, what a run that was. Incredible drive. So they must have had a setup on the car that was absolutely spot on for the conditions there in that Ferrari of Central Florida machine. I believe that's a Triarci run car. And there is Cooper MacNeil. And again, Cooper's car, you could see it just was dancing everywhere. Didn't have a lot of side bite. It was sliding sideways. It was rotating under throttle. I mean, I think they may have missed the setup just a little bit. And everything gets exaggerated when you have a wet track that's drying, especially. So those two guys having a nice visit. Like I said, I think they've run each other a few times, and they've certainly run in races together, maybe not in the same class or category of car. But everybody's staging up here. I believe that they have set the podiums up over at the hotel. That's a unique concept. I like it. Let's take a look at our provisional results. And again, Podolio, look at that final margin. Wow, just unbelievable. And then Jason McCarthy coming from last in Trofeo Pirelli Am through that entire field and up to third overall. Claude Centeretti saving his tires and then mounting that late charge that he missed by less than a second. And then Ross Chouest rounding out the top five with Sada completing the podium in Trofeo Pirelli Am. And then here, Coppa Horseman with what was a 3-second margin at the end over Jim Booth. And then they both had a lot of room back to Ian Campbell. Kevin Milstein taking a bit of a hit in the points here. And then Jay Schreibman, rounding out the top five with Keebler back a bit, and then Ronnie Vogel not taking the start in this one. So wow, what an eventful race. And when one class would sort of calm down a little bit, the other one would blow up in terms of competitiveness. And just some incredible runs. And yep, there you can see the podium set up. I like this. So you stage everybody up over in front of the hotel over there where there's a large group of people watching. Let's take a look at some highlights from this fascinating race. Of course, tracks was quite damp when it started. Cooper MacNeil leading him away. There you can see Podolio as he already moving offline. Part of it, I think, is visibility, but also thinking I can get through here on Kermani. Watch this pass here, and he hits that puddle right there, and somehow the car didn't even skate. Then he laid this pass on Jordan Workman, and that moved him up into second. And in very quick order, then he chased down Cooper MacNeil. This is now faded a little bit here, and we're watching now. This is Horseman's move. He had moved side by side, and boy, those guys raced each other hard, close quarters action. And then watch this move here, and it looked like Horseman overshot. Booth squares underneath. Horseman thinks he's clear and drifts over right there. I think he got that curb, and it loosened him up as well. So those two guys had a heck of a battle. There you can see Cooper, the back end of the car, bouncing, swinging around. Podolio, the car much more grounded. Cooper just willed his way through that corner, defended down the straight here, and was able to hang on at the exit of one here. Got up again the next lap, Podolio going around the outside. And then this move here, look at Jason McCarthy's car swaying under the braking as he swings wide around. But at the end, Podolio, what a run he put on, and taking the overall win and Trofeo Pirelli Am, and making his way down into Victory Circle there, the Victory Circle staging area, and giving that beautiful Ferrari 48 Challenge Evo a kiss. It was a magnificent mount today, that prancing horse that he rode to the win. Just spectacular. Good racing throughout the field here. And as I said, me doing math is never a pretty thing, but by my math now, just the way things finished at this stage, it is going to be Cooper MacNeil with an insurmountable advantage. Let's take a look at some points right now. And there it is. And you can see that margin, 61 points, and that's more than enough. There are 45 points plus 6 left. That's 51. So with that second place finish, Cooper MacNeil has clinched his third straight Trofeo Pirelli championship. And what a remarkable season he's put together. This is only in 11 races, only the second time he hasn't won. And the first time he hasn't set fast lap in the race. So that tells you what kind of season he's got. Jordan Workman, boy, is he going to be somebody to watch in the future. He's got races yet to finish out this year, but his first season of actual competition here, after doing test driving and setup work for a high-performance aftermarket company for a lot of years, he's got a future in front of him. Dave Musial, look at that margin. We talked about how close this class was, but with Dave finishing back and forth at this stage, that margin shrinks a little bit to only 3 over Jean-Claude Sada. And then it's still relatively close back to McCarthy with 3 races to go. And that's basically a 19-point deficit for Jason, the way he's driving. That's not insurmountable. And Brett Holden a little bit farther back as well than a couple of drivers that aren't here today, but battle at the front. And then this one's going to be fascinating to see when we look at Coppa, because it was the top 3 were separated by 6 points at the drop of the green today. And now it is 2 points between Booth and Horseman. And Horseman came in to this race. Keep in mind, Horseman came into this race third in the points. He's now second by 2. And Milstein, who came in second in the points, is third by 4. That's incredibly close. So that's how things look in the championships with 3 races to go. And, of course, the next race is going to be tomorrow right here at Sebring International Raceway. Everybody qualifies again tomorrow, and then they go after it for another slate of races tomorrow afternoon. But up next, it's podium time and celebrations. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sebring. Do come back and enjoy the qualifying shows in the morning and racing in the early afternoon with us right here at Sebring International. For Katie, I'm Greg Creamer. Thanks so much.